Now, IBC tanks, they're ugly. They have absolutely no insulation or protection from fluctuations in outside air temperature. So in this video, I'll give a how-to step-by-step on how to turn an ugly temperature fluctuating IBC tank into something that's a little bit better looking in your back garden, that's got some insulation to protect it from variations in temperature. We do a bit of shopping. I'll give you some essential DIY hints, tips and tricks, and also some essential health and safety information. So stick around and I hope you enjoy the video. Where are we, Emily?
Wicks.
And what are we doing at Wicks?
We are getting the wood for our tank.
What have we got with us to help us get the right amount?
The design.
Yes, this should be familiar to you, so let's go get some wood. Just want to share a quick tip. When you're buying timber, make sure it's straight. Get a length, lie it on the ground, and just turn it round on each side, and you can see this one looks bent that way. You're paying £7 a bit of wood, you want to make sure it's straight. So there's a successful shopping trip in Wicks. We've got the feather edge board and the wood we need to clad the front and the side of the fish tank, and we've also picked up some cheeky snacks. Good morning. Got a cheeky half hour before I start work, so I've come out here on this fresh February morning. I thought I'd just make a start on getting the old koi tank cladded. So just going to flip you around and just talk you through kind of the plan. So I want to put some decking boards around the top to create a nice edge. I want to put, I've got some of this sort of feathered fencing board to sort of clad the outside with. But essentially, the way I'm going to do this is I've got some, what are these? 47 by 47 mil battens. Can't even think what that is in old money. But essentially, I'm going to attach that to the side like that. Snip it off at the top with a saw, obviously. And then along the bottom of that, I'm going to put a decking board. And then run the feathered board up to the underside of the top, which is also going to be covered with some decking, something like that. Going to have a bit of a gap here inside, so I'm thinking I might put some form of insulation in there, but I'm not going to be heating this tank, but it will help keep the temperature consistent and avoid any sort of extreme fluctuations because the water volume is quite small. So I'm going to have a think about that towards the weekend. Yeah, so I think that's broadly it. Just got to get cracking really. The way I've decided to fix these boards to the outside, the reason I'm putting these boards up is to get something to attach the horizontal feather boards to. I'm going to screw through the plastic base. It's one of the reasons I wanted a plastic base, so I could screw it rather than a metal one. And I'm going to take the bottle out, and I think what I've decided to do is just drill some holes either in these bars here, depending on where it lands, and screw through from the inside, and then I can just use those to screw in on the horizontals. And then just use this for illustration. A bit of wood there gives me something solid to screw the essentially the coping boards into. The other reason I've done it this way rather than just sticking it on the side is because I want to put some form of maybe a raised bog filter up here or some other sort of bio filter on the top, so whatever is on the side is going to have to take a little bit of weight to help keep that where it needs to be. So that's just another reason why. At first I thought I was maybe over engineering it a little bit, but I think I'm just going to go with this and see how we get on. The first thing I need to do with this one is check its level, because I noticed when I did fill it up it was sloping, and you can see kind of the level of the top there of the bricks, it is on a bit of a slope. So trusty spirit level, stick that along there. I can see, look, we are sloping. Now the way that I've just worked this out roughly is I'm going to get this level, there we go, and then just see the gap here to give me an idea of roughly how much we need to bring the front up, so I can just adjust it at the top and then put it at the bottom. to try and make it a bit easier. So I'm going to try and find a bit of wood that is about that thick and stick it under there, see what it looks like. Right, so I've got a bit of old tongue and groove left from when I did my shed. Wedged it under there like that, and do you know what, it's slightly too much, but I'll have that for the sake of convenience, so that's good. If I stick that underneath the bottom of the tank, that should level it up. So there we go, just stuck that under the front, and we're pretty much bang on. I am gonna just find another little bit of wood to shimmy under here, under the middle, just to fill this gap up, but to be honest, I think it'd probably be all right just kind of sitting on the base because of the amount of reinforcement that's in the base, but I will just find something to shore up underneath that just to stop it potentially bowing in the middle. But yeah, happy with that, nice and easy. Right, what I've done is I've decided to take the shimmy out from the bottom for when I build the cladding on the outside, because I don't want to build it just to be used in this location, because I might move it or even sell it when I'm done with it, or who knows. And I don't want it to be just permanently only level on this spot, so I'm going to put the cladding on the outside, and then once that's all done, or I've built the bottom layer, I'll then level it up and build the rest of it. I think one of the things that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to clad the back here, or the back that runs along here, because I'm only really doing it for aesthetics. If I do insulate it, I can still insulate around the side. But I'm just trying to keep costs down as much as possible and just remove any unnecessary work at this point, because I just want to get the thing set up, and then if ever I move it so we can see the back sides, I can always just clad them at that point. So yeah, let's get to it. Got my trusty pencil. Wix, it's got our name on it. Just another little tip. When I'm cutting stuff by hand, it's too easy to go wonky, so I always just get my set square out, and where I've drawn the line here, I'll always just make sure that I mark it around. Sorry, this camera work is not easy, not very good, so I'll just make sure I mark it around the whole beam, just so that I can make sure that when I'm cutting it, that I'm just cutting it straight and even, because nothing worse than being slightly out. It doesn't only affect this cut but the next one as well. So yeah, just another little tip that might be teaching people stuff they already know, but some people might not know this stuff, and again, I've made these mistakes so many times before. There we go. So I know now that, because they all join up, the line there, it's going to be, as long as I follow the line when I cut the thing, it's going to be nice and straight. And I'm going to be doing this with a handsaw just because I want. Right, today is the day. I'm fed up with faffing. So the other morning, I got these 2 bits of wood cut, stop putting on the tank. Today I'm going to get it cladded, get it done. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but someone's blasting out Celine Dion Titanic theme tune. Incredible. Anyways, today is all going to be about efficiency and quick work. So the first thing I've done is I've walked around the rest of the tank to see how these boards, planks will fit alongside the tank, to see if I need to measure each side. And actually what I've realised is where it's got these little dings and dents in it, actually they're all very slightly different. And around this side, if you can see this, let me zoom out, hang on. Yep. It's actually not sitting flush against it. This is the top of it is slightly bent. So actually what I'm going to need to do is attach it at multiple points down the tank. Like this one's even worse. And also sort of around this side. Just to get that, yeah, if I put it in the bottom, look, it sticks out the top and it's not going to be straight. So I'm going to have to just fix it at multiple points, and actually I'm not going to worry too much about putting it into the plastic base, because these are going to hold it enough. So that's actually good in some respects, because the other thing it's made me think of is I don't need this to be on the ground, and actually it's probably better it's just slightly off so that water doesn't get sucked up into and rot the wood when it rains. So yeah, that's good. So what I'm going to do is in terms of efficiency of working, rather than measure, cut, measure, cut, measure, cut. I'm just going to measure all the planks of wood that I've got. I need to cut to length and then just cut them all in one go. And rather than doing it with a saw like I did the other day, I'm going to get the old circular saw out just to make it a little bit easier. So without further ado, let's get going. But actually there is one thing before I do get going. I need to show you something. Check out the beard, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yeah. Right, so I've marked up all the wood. Just going to pause here just for a very quick safety announcement because we're going to be using some power tools. Hi everyone. So, bit of a serious talk now. You can never take your own personal health and safety and that of your loved ones and those around you too seriously. So I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of the key safety considerations that I've taken into account before embarking on this potential dangerous activity of chopping up the side supports for my fish tank. So the tool that we'll be using today will be a Makita circular saw. Now the tool itself has a number of very important built-in safety features, which I will just momentarily explain to you. It has a safety switch, so you can't accidentally switch the tool on. You have to press this button in here to engage power and spin the blade. It has two handles to maintain stability on the use of the tool at all times. Again, safety feature. These can kick back, so you have to make sure you hold it robustly when you're cutting, and also that helps you cut straight. As you can see, it has a safety blade here that stays in position whilst you cut the wood, and this is spring loaded, so as the tool moves forward and cuts into the wood, it automatically opens up to release the blade, and then it will snap shut when you take it away. The blade will continue to spin after you've used it, so it's important to not interfere with this guide and ensure it springs back after usage. Bear in mind that there is always some of the blade on show. Excuse me. Another thing to note, it has a ejection exhaust here, which you can hook up to a hoover or collection bag to collect the sawdust. I don't have one, so that's something I will come on to in a moment. You've got to take your workstation preparation very carefully. Make sure that the wire is out of your cutting route. You don't want to be cutting through this because you will likely electrocute yourself. Excuse me. With that in mind, one of the things that I will be using today will be a circuit breaker installed on my extension lead, so that should I accidentally cut through this, or there's a problem with the with the tool itself, could malfunction, cuts the power off, I hopefully won't get electrocuted. So that's the safety considerations around the tool itself. Next is my own personal protective equipment, commonly referred to as PPE, that I will be using during this exercise. First thing, you've probably seen me use these, wear them all the time. Gloves. Won't stop me cutting my hand off and my finger off. They'll increase my grip on the tool and on the wood that I'm cutting. Stop my hands from getting cold. And also will stop me from getting any splinters. You know, minor inconvenience, but why take the risk? A couple of things commonly overlooked in DIY is eye protection. They're only about £3. DeWalt ones. Don't steam up. Protect any sawdust, chips from your eye, getting in your eye. And also, you might be able to tell I'm a musician. I like my music, so my hearing is very important to me. So I will be wearing ear defenders. Or you can buy little ones that go in your ears. I just buy these because, you know, they're durable. They're only about £3-4. As I mentioned to you, this bit of equipment does create airborne dust. I will be outside, but this will still be airborne. I will be wearing a face mask to protect me from those airborne particles. Another thing, though, a few of you may think that this is a little bit overkill. I might tend to agree. But again, you just can't be too careful with your preparation on these things. Hard hat. I think this cost me about £10. Why not? Neighbours might be fed up with the noise. Chuck a brick over the fence. I might trip over if it kicks back, and if I've got this on, I'm not going to hurt my head. And another thing commonly overlooked in workstation safety is that I'll be having my hard hat on, I'm going to have my glasses on,
ear defenders on. I'm not going to be able to hear what's going on around me. I'm going to be 110% focused on the task in front of me, which is cutting this wood in a safe and secure manner. Now, with all of this stuff blocking my senses and my focus being distracted, I might not, on the off chance someone enters my workspace, hear them come in, see them. So it's important that they understand the seriousness of the situation and the task that I'm undertaking, and how seriously that I am taking my own personal and their safety. So I will also be wearing a high visibility jacket. So one last thing, buy your personal protective equipment from reputable suppliers. Toolstation, Wicks, Screwfix. It's not expensive. Pound shop maybe not. It's double check that they have relevant CE markings and they're of a suitable quality, so that should the worst happen and you need to call on their services, you know that you have taken every precaution that you possibly can within your control for reasonable expense, to ensure that they work effectively at the time that you need them most. So I hope you found this little health and safety overview careful. I will be applying these general principles to all of the tasks that I do throughout my DIY fish building series. Should you ever observe me in a video not taking full health and safety precautions, please keep those comments to yourself. Thank you, and let's get back to it. Enough faffing.
Okay, so I've completed my workstation risk assessment. Make sure that I've got a nice sturdy platform with which to place my wood so it doesn't move around when I'm cutting it. I have plugged in the saw. Always, as it says, test before use to make sure that the circuit breaker functionality is working, which it is, so that's good. I've also positioned the cable so it comes down to the right of me, and I'm not cutting across the cable at any time. So without further ado, I shall don my personal protective equipment and get this show on the road. Right, I've gone round and marked up where I'm going to drill through the inside of the cage to attach each of my side struts, whatever you want to call them. So I'm going to use 5mm wide screws, different lengths obviously to come through into the back of the wood. So I'm just going to get in there now and drill all my holes.
Measuring success by the badges on your old school blazer. Not unlike my art, I changed the tune back to a cold November, and I got tattoos on my chest that mean nothing to.
Right, so my holes drilled. Just going to have a quick sweep up of the metal filings, and then we're going to screw these bad boys in. Cool. What I've done makes this a bit easier. I've just gone round and from the outside screwed the top screw in. It's been easy to sort of line up, make sure I get that level at the top and central to the beam I'm going to screw into, and then I'm going to get inside and I can just go through, like for example this one, just line it up, make sure it's straight. Like for example that one there, you can see that's not too bad. One of these looked really crooked. That one there, look. So I can just go round from the inside when I'm in there, just make sure it's upright, and then go in and put the rest of the screws in. So let's get it on. It's come together quite quick. Now stop faffing. I do love my impact driver. I mean, I was an advocate of using actual proper screwdrivers on jobs like this, but I mean, when you can do this sort of stuff one-handed, I mean, it's just so easy. I love them. I think I might do a product review on the set I bought at some point, so keep your eye open for that. But got a light on it as well, look. See, this is where it's slightly bent, so I can use the power of that to start to pull it all back into shape. Beautiful. Right, just a couple of things. I finished screwing all these sort of joist battens in, whatever, now. And I just thought I'd just go through a couple of things that I considered. I did think about screwing them in from the other way, and I did buy some self-tapping screws. But what I was concerned with is the screw popping through and then the pointy bit being on the side that the tank is, and it might, you know, I didn't want to drill through the side of the tank. Also, what I've done is the tank is moulded around these bars, or some of them. So I've just made sure as best as possible that the screw head isn't protruding out over the bar. And again, this one is a little bit, but there's a bit of a profile to the metal bid, so that's fine. That's not causing any problems. Over this side of the tank, this is where I said I'm going to put some sort of filtration above it. So where I had these bits of wood that I wasn't going to use, I've been sticking around for ages, I've just put the more solid bits on this side, and because these are going to be taking a little bit more weight and they're now not on the touching the ground, I've just put a few more screws in just so they've got a few more anchor points. But yeah, pretty chuffed with that. Now I'm going to put the skirting board around the outside of the edge, and then I can start putting the cladding on. I'm just about to fit the skirting board across the front, and I need to notch it so I don't lose any access to the outlet, and also because I need to leave a gap here, I'm also going to have to put a couple of bits of wood here to attach the cladding to, so I'm going to get on that now. So there's marked out where I need to cut, so I'm going to do this with my jigsaw. Come along here, that should just give me enough, but I'm going to always like to just drill out the corners just to make it a bit easier with the old jigsaw. There's one. Let's get going on the other one. We end up with some nice neat round corners without having to do it with the old jigsaw. The reason I had a bit of a false start was because I remembered I still had the metal drill bit in the jigsaw from when I cut out the top of the plastic tank. So let's get these screwed on. One thing I very nearly forgot when I was just about to screw these on is that I don't want these resting on the ground, because I don't want them to soak up any groundwater, because it'll just make them rot. So just got a little bit of thin wood there, easy, stick it underneath. Just going to lift it off the floor ever so slightly so I can screw this in place, take this out, and then I'll use this on the other side as well to make sure that there's a nice air gap underneath. There we go, with the decking boards around the bottom and the little gap there for the outflow pipe. I need to do a bit of forward thinking now, because if I start putting this cladding on, it's going to get heavy, and I don't want to be lugging it about when it's got all that wood on it as well. So I'm going to slide this back, level it with the board underneath like I showed in the other vid. But actually what I have decided to do is to insulate it. So also, actually, before I do any of that, I'm gonna have to get the insulation on the back side, because as I said before, I'm not cladding that. I'm just gonna literally push that up against the wall. So I'm gonna get cracking with that now. Right, so from what I've seen from other people insulating their grow on tanks, I think this method is a bit, what's the word? Non-conventional. So I have bought loft roll. It's 100 millimeters thick, so it's just going to squish into the tank, right? But you can't just put it in because it'll absorb moisture and water. So this is a trick that I learned when I converted a camper van. Is actually what you do is you put it inside some heavy duty sacks, tape it up so that then it's waterproof essentially, pack it in, and away we go. So I shall do a little bit of a step-by-step on this one just so that I can explain to you kind of exactly what it is I'm going on about. And this was done for a couple of reasons. One, it squishes in. I haven't got a cut out for all the individual squares, so I think it'll do a better job of insulating it, and it'll be tight up against the outside and the tank. And also expense, that was £22. The bag of sacks was a bit expensive at £4, but for 28 quid, I think that's probably at least half the price of using something like Celotex. And to be honest with you, I think this will do a better job as insulation, so I'll get to it. And actually the other thing to explain is, because there's going to be nothing here to hold it on, actually what I've got is some old washing line, so I know that won't stretch, and I'm going to literally staple it across these batons. I might loop it through here as well just to hold it as tight as possible. If I wanted to throw a bit more money at it, I'll just put a sheet of plywood on there, but like, again, 25 quid a sheet at the moment. It's just, I just don't want to spend that money. Let's get going. Just another little tip: when you're putting the feather edge boards in, make sure you put the right angled corner, this one here in the bottom left, into your right angle. You can see there that it's like a, what they call isosceles triangles or something, in it. And also when you're screwing them in, don't stick the screw in the middle. Stick the screw in there at the top, because I'll be overlapping these by about 1 centimetre, so the board above it will hide the screws and it just makes it look a little bit neater. You'll notice I'm using quite a smaller screw here than I used for attaching the, you know, these bits. It's not necessary, and it will help it stop from splitting at the edge. I think quite often these are normally pinned with nails, but because I might want to take this off at some point, if there's, you know, I want to do something with the insulation or whatever, I want to use screws so I can take it apart in the future. Right, so in the time, in terms of what I said earlier in the video about efficiency and doing all the cutting at once, I'm just going to cut all of these feather edge boards now. I know that my measurements are right because I've checked a couple, and I've got one here that I've cut and again checked that the 2 bits are the right lengths. So I'm just going through and marking them all up. One thing to bear in mind when you're using your template one, again, just make sure you got the orientation of these round the right way. Otherwise you might find up that if you do it the other way round, when you go to mount it, it might be the wrong way, and you might get your lengths muddled up. So I might be wrong, but just to be on the safe side, I'm doing it like this, just checking each individual one. And then probably what I will do when I go to cut them, again, because I've got all the lines lined up, I'll probably just stack them up and probably just cut 3 or 4 at a time, because it'll clamp each end together, because that saw will be able to handle that, and it'll just save me doing lots of individual cuts. So here we go, I've got 8 boards left, so I've put them 4 up together. Got my cut line here, you can see they all just roughly line up, but again, doesn't matter if they're slightly out, but they are pretty much aligned. Clamp on there. These Lidl's ones are great, look, I had put the handle overs, just to keep them together. And I've checked, and the thickness of my blade will cut through 4 together, so let's get it done. Had to buy some different bin liners because those other ones from Wix weren't big enough. Hoping these ones will be. Let's get going. I really can't be bothered. It's got to be done. What an absolute Mickey take. I bought them because they're like 1.5 meters long, but like most of it's the handles. They're no bigger than a normal black sack. So I've just bought some bin bags. I'm going to stuff it in there. Stuff it in there. Getting fed up now. So here's just a quick illustration of what I'm talking about. Black bin liner, get it and lay it down flat. Here's my lost insulation. I've measured the length of the bag, so just cut it along here a couple of times.
go. Try and keep that bit together because just have to get it in the bag. Stuff that in there. Try and keep the bag sort of square. Keeps it shaped quite well. There we go. And then just sort of fold that over, tuck that in. Like that. Make sure you wear these gloves because this stuff makes you itch big time if you get it in your skin. There we go. And there's a couple of bits on the end. Stop any water getting in there. It's easier to have gloves on actually. There we go. And if you make sure you put it in that way up, then you know the water's just going to run off of it if it does get wet. That's it. And then when you go to stick it in, I've just made a very small hole in here, tiny little hole, just to let the air out so it balloons up a bit. And then obviously just put one of these boards on to get going. Tuck that in, tape side down. There we go. That will now squish up when I put the rest of the boards on. The area's coming out of that. And again, I can just tuck it in there, just hold it in while I board it up. Just got to do the rest of the tank now. Didn't take too long. Let's get going. So there's the first of the back done. Just put some bits of wood on at the end rather than that washing line. I think we do a bit better, and then the top will just squish this in nicely. So let's do the rest. I did end up using the old washing line, look, for the corners. Works well. Cheeky little staples. After all that hassle, I've run out of bin liners and I've just had to use the Wicks ones. And do you know what? They're actually perfect. They're the perfect size. Never mind. This is turning into a bit of a faff, but I've got the back corner done now, so I can finally slide this in, and then I can start finally putting the cladding on. Getting there slowly but surely. Hopefully this is worth the effort. Using the old clothesline and staples, it's worked quite well actually. Should have done that around the back, but I would have run out, so happy days. Starting to feel like I'm making progress now, which is cool. But I just thought I'd come back. I know I spoke the other day about like trying to make things as efficient as possible, but like having done that side, I've now kind of marked each board and pre-drilled the screws. It just makes it so much easier than trying to get the screws in when it's up here and trying to measure it once I've screwed it in. And it's just, I can now just go setting this up and then just put them all up. So I just thought I'd share that as almost another little tip. So let's get it on. So there we go. Got the cladding done. Had a bit of leftover tongue and groove, so just finished this side off with that. And just need to put a little bit of wood down the corner of here to finish this gap off. And yeah, all good. There's the cut out there for the pipe work. It's quite good where sorry, the light's a bit poor, it's getting dark. Where I pushed this in and squished it, it's actually refilled nicely and all padded out, so it's going to all be nice and snug in there when the bottle's back in. But yeah, no, I'm pleased with this. It's turned out all right. Obviously I've not done the back, so I've got a nice gap here to get the pipes round. And also I've just made sure I've left enough of a gap here if I want to get any pipe work through this way at a later stage. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with that. Just got to get the bottle in, plumbing done, and then I can put the top on. So all good. Time for dinner. Look at the state of this though.
got to tidy up first. Ended up rushing a bit today, just because I got started a bit late and had to go down to the shop a couple of times to get these stupid bin bags. But we're done, so it's good. What the fuck?